The launch of the Artemis II mission will have to wait until at least March of 2026. That's because a tanking test of the Space Launch System rocket, called a wet dress rehearsal, didn't quite hit the mark as hoped.
We wanted to get through terminal count.
Charlie Blackwell-Thompson is the Artemis launch director. She oversaw the 2-day fueling campaign designed to gain assurances about the readiness of the hardware to launch. But after nearly half a day of fueling, the clock halted less than halfway through the 10-minute terminal count.
We wanted to get inside of terminal count. We wanted to hold, and we wanted to verify our 3-minute hold capability, which is that you've got all of your cryoprop systems in a launch-ready state, and you can hold them there for up to 3 minutes. And we wanted to demonstrate that capability. We wanted to demonstrate a recycle, which is we would go down, have a planned cutoff in the countdown, come back and retarget a new T0 and be able to demonstrate that within the launch window. Didn't get a chance to do that. And then we would come down, do the handoff to ALS, and then cut off shortly thereafter. So I would say those are probably the three things that we had intended to do yesterday that we did not get an opportunity to do. And we'll target doing those in the next wet dress.
February 2nd was the first chance that NASA teams got to fully fuel this Space Launch System rocket out at Launch Complex 39B. Unfortunately, it was both literally and figuratively Groundhog's Day, since some of the issues that cropped up during the Artemis I campaign reared their heads again during Artemis II, namely issues with hydrogen. Both the core stage and the upper stage of the Space Launch System rocket are fueled by liquid hydrogen, or LH2 for short. Multiple leaks plagued both the Artemis I wet dress rehearsals and launch attempts. Artemis II Mission Management Team Chair John Honeycutt.
We try to test like we fly, but this interface is a very complex interface, and when you're dealing with hydrogen, it's a small molecule, it's highly energetic, and we like it for that reason, and we do the best we can. And actually this one caught us off guard, and the initial things that we were seeing, and the technical team felt like we either had some sort of misalignment or some sort of deformation or debris on the seal.
That seal is referring to the seal on the Tail Mast Service Umbilical, or TMSU. It's one of the two 33-foot tall structures on the deck of the mobile launcher. It houses the umbilicals that allow liquid hydrogen to move from the spherical storage tank into the 2 million liter tank on the core stage. However, during the tanking operations on February 2nd, there were a few points where hydrogen began to leak out at rates high enough to halt fueling.
When we got into the LH2 fast fill, which was around 12:29, is when we picked up our first leak in the TSMU in the cavity, which is where the flight and the ground plate come together, and it's that cavity in between. And it's in our 8-inch fill and drain line there. We have a QD that kind of connects those two together. So it was similar, I would say, to some of the signatures that we've seen during Artemis I. Our leak rate was a little bit higher, somewhere in around the, I would say, 12 to 14%. As you know, we went back, we did some testing between Artemis I and Artemis II, and determined that 16% was an appropriate leak limit for LH2 in that cavity, and so that's what we managed to yesterday. So we saw the leak get up around our limit, and we did a stop flow revert, and when we did that, we saw, of course, the leak came down.
The next steps are for teams to drill into the data, inspect the hardware, and figure out how best to protect against future leaks. NASA Associate Administrator Amit Kshatriya says the issue might have its roots from the rocket's roll to the pad back in mid-January.
You know, when we're mated to the tail service mast and we roll, that rollout environment is very complicated, as you see the size of the machine there, and you know, kind of the way in which we have to push it out to the pad. So, and while we're rolling, you know, that interface is in communication, and so, you know, we don't really know exactly. It's very hard to predict kind of what credit we can take for and what the acceleration environment is all the way up and down the stack. When we did Artemis I, in fact, we did a lot of stop and start tests to see if we could characterize it, but even then, it's pretty complicated from a stress and strain standpoint, and so that's not an excuse. It's just that's the first configuration in which we've been able to witness that environment. Lots of times when we look at the duration the rocket can stay at the pad, we have very good understanding of like onshore winds and those loads and how those affect the mated stack, because that's more predictable. The one thing that's very hard for us and we kind of keep in our pocket as pretty constrained is the number of rolls. Those of you guys that followed Artemis I, we were very particular about that because we can't take credit for the witness of that rollout environment. It's very complicated. And so we think that's a contributor, but again, we have to tear the seal apart and see what happened.
Beyond the issues with the hydrogen leaks, Blackwell-Thompson said they also wanted to use the wet dress rehearsal to give the closeout crew an opportunity to go through the process of closing the dual hatches on Orion.
There is limited opportunity to go do that with the integrated vehicle. And we had an opportunity during CDDT for the first time, but the environment's a little bit different being out at the pad. And yes, it's the same hatch, closes the same way, but there's something unique and different about being out at the pad in a cryogenically fueled environment of the rocket that is underneath. And so we wanted to take that opportunity to have the closeout crew demonstrate that.
Elements like that go to a point that NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman raised in a post on social media the day after the wet dress rehearsal. As I stated during my hearings and will say again, this is the fastest path to return humans to the moon and achieve our near-term objectives through at least Artemis V, but it is not the most economic path and certainly not the forever path, Isaacman wrote. The flight rate is the lowest of any NASA-designed vehicle, and that should be a topic of discussion. It is why we undertake wet dress rehearsals pre-FRR and FRR, and why we will not press to launch until we are absolutely ready.
To be fair, it is going to be experimental because going to the moon in this configuration with the energies we're dealing with, and every time we do it, these are very bespoke components. They're in many cases made by incredible craftsmen, and so the geometries of them, even though they're within tolerances, each one of them is different. Honeycutt said earlier, this is the first time this particular machine has borne witness to cryogens, and how it breathes and how it vents and how it wants to leak is something we have to characterize. And so every time we do it, we're going to have to do that separately. This is the configuration that we need, with the energies we need in order to achieve these near-term missions. We've been talking with the administrator, at length about this, and he's very passionate about making sure we achieve the objectives of the campaign using this, but also making sure that as we go forward, we try and get to a higher flight rate so we can get more learning. And that is exactly the approach we need, which is why we're pushing for this test for this February window. And we're going to try to, as Charlie and Lori and the guys get ready to go, get another test as quickly as we can.
The goal at this point is to launch this rocket sometime in the March window, but if that doesn't happen, then teams are going to need to roll it all the way back over here to the vehicle assembly building, where NASA will be able to address things like changing out the flight termination system batteries. Reporting for Spaceflight Now, I'm Will Robinson Smith.